let's talk it through. On Friday, the Constitutional Court ruled that the second extension of the Director of Public Prosecutions, Paula Llewellyn's tenure is unconstitutional. So to give us some clarity on this judgment is Chairperson of the Jamaica Bar Association's Constitutional Affairs Committee, Carlene Larmond, KC. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning to you both. Well, thank you.
This has played out interestingly, or has it not? Did you see this? Did Jambar see this coming?
It is based on the case that was filed. One could say, yes, it might have taken a certain direction, but we usually don't predict what a court may decide. And having regard to the judgment and having read the judgment quite thoroughly, it does seem to us that the direction that was taken some time ago by these claimants is one that is correct.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Which means that, as of yesterday, that's it. We hear the JLP saying appeal. Why? Does it make sense?
Well, it's the Attorney General who has said appeal. The Attorney General is the defendant to the claim that was brought by Mr. Paulwell and Mr. Bunting. And the question of whether there should be an appeal, there is a right. There is a right to an appeal, and everyone who is aggrieved by a decision has that right. The question as to whether an appeal is something that makes practical sense is one that has occupied the minds of everyone, many people, over the weekend. And it seems to me that whether you want to discuss whether the judgment is right or whether you want to discuss whether it's wrong, the fact of the matter is at this point, there is a declaration that the provision under which the DPP applied for or elected to continue in office has been ruled unlawful and unconstitutional. The effect of that, based on Jambar's assessment of the judgment, is that as of the 19th of April, the DPP cannot continue to hold office. Before I ask my present question, as of the 19th to know, anything that she dealt with is still on the board, or that has to be thrown out, or what? There is a provision in the Constitution, Section 96(2), which makes express provision for situations in which there may be some question as to the tenure of the DPP based on her age and the effect that that may have on actions that a DPP may take. Based on that provision, it is our view that any step between when she had gotten the extension and April 19 would be lawful.
That's September?
Yes, would be lawful. Okay. The question that arises now is whether the actions taken between April 19 and now are going forward, because we had seen on the weekend a statement that she would have remained in office. That has changed yesterday, but the question that really occupied everyone's mind who would be really involved in this matter is between April 19 and now, what is the status of actions taken by the DPP? So my present question is, I know everything is not smooth usually. Certainly not. The law is the law. So why you say one thing, me say one thing, Simone say another thing, when the law is the law? Where's the confusion in here, if that's the word? I'm not certain the confusion is the word, but it seems to be. Yes. Why? Well, you see, everything is open to interpretation. And just one moment. I agree with you that the law is the law. And Jambar's position is that the rule of law must be upheld. And that the rule of law, as applied to the current circumstances, is that having regard to the declaration made by the court, the DPP's continuance in office is not one that has a proper legal basis. However, what we saw on Friday was a position taken by the Attorney General and also the Minister of Justice that there is no order requiring the DPP to demit office. There's a difference between a declaration and an order. And the position that they took, as I understand it, based particularly on the Attorney General's statement, is that there is no order. There does not need to be an order in my respectful view. The court has made a declaration, and it is a seminal principle that declarations of the court are not only respected, but they are acknowledged.
And binding.
And so it is my view that the effect of the declaration is that the DPP would not continue in office, could not continue in office, and there's no need for an order.
To be explicitly
stated.
Okay,
Yes.
so earlier I said that it was the party who was calling for the appeal. So it's the AG who would advise the Justice Minister, so? To make to whether there are grounds for.
Yes, the Attorney General.
Correct.
Yes, the Attorney General is the chief legal advisor to the government.
I want to know though how the AG. I want to say could have gotten it so wrong. I don't know if that's the right question, but again, back to the premise of Nev's question. I mean, I understand there are loopholes and legalese and interpretation and so on. But this one seems like there's great disparity between what ought to have happened and what did. So it raises the question, how could this have happened?
Well, you see, let's start with context. Because what had happened in this case is that the DPP, under the previous provisions of the Constitution, and I say previous because as at July 31 last year, those provisions in relation to her retirement changed, right? That was when we had the amendment of the Constitution. But prior to that, what obtained was that the retirement age was 60 and that an extension to remain in office beyond 60 is one that the DPP would have had to apply for, right? And so there was an extension, an application was made, and it was extended. It was extended to September 2023. In February of 2023, the DPP applied for a further extension. And in May 2023, the Public Service Commission said that the Prime Minister refused the extension, having taken advice. Shortly after that, we see an amendment to the Constitution, which not only raises the age for retirement, increases the age, we also see a provision which allows a DPP, as at the date of that act, which is July 31, 2023, being permitted to elect to continue in office. That is the provision that the court struck down. The court did not strike down the provision which increases the age, because the court found that the procedure for increasing the age limit was properly followed. Yeah. So it is the election that is the difference between the current provisions and the old provisions, and the court found that that was not only inconsistent with what previously obtained, but inconsistent with Parliament's intent, because Parliament's intention was to maintain the current mechanism for extension. And the current mechanism for extension is not an election by the DPP, but consultation between the government and the opposition.
Okay.
Which never happened.
Which did not happen.
Okay.
Who's the Public Service Commission? Who are these people?
The Public Service Commission is a body that pretty much deals with the HR issues in government. So they deal with employment, promotions, etc.
Who appoints
in government. They are appointed by the Governor General, I believe.
Okay.
Yes.
And apparently their time is out also.
I learned yesterday, yes, and in the listening to you this morning, that they have that commission expired sometime now, several months, perhaps a year. I think it's since last year.
Who will name the acting DPP? Where will that come?
Well, we understand that a PSC is to be appointed today.
But who will appoint?
And so, no, they will be appointed in the usual way.
TVJ.
And I suppose their first task would be to appoint an acting DPP, but that is also an issue. Not the PSC appointing the acting DPP, but this whole notion of appointing an acting DPP. Now, the Constitution makes express provision for how an acting DPP may be appointed, and there are two basic reasons. First, that the office of the DPP is vacant, and second, that the holder of the office is unable to carry out their functions. You will see from the Attorney General's statement that it is the second one that I mentioned that it's premised on. Jambar's position is that the office is vacant, and that is the basis upon which an acting DPP can be appointed. The second one presumes that Ms. Llewellyn King's counsel continues as the holder of the office, and that's inconsistent with the judgment.
Yeah. Very well explained.
I have a question.
Go.
An expired PSC? So do we have some governance issues that we need to be looking into?
I believe we do, because that, of course, would have come to as a shock to not only our citizens, but to anyone who is active in government. I used to be in government in the Attorney General's chambers, and we know how important the PSC is to the functions of all human resource matters in government.
Yeah.
I have one more question. We have a deputy DPP now, do we not?
Yes, I believe there is a deputy.
Is there no route for that deputy DPP to automatically assume?
No, that's not how it works.
Okay, got you. But would that person be in consideration for the role?
I would imagine that the person should be in consideration for the role. Whether the person would be in consideration is an entirely different issue.
Have to apply for?
Yes. The process usually involves advertisement, etc. But in these circumstances in which we find ourselves, certainly I agree with Dr. Barnett's statement earlier that an acting DPP at this point is the best outcome. The only difference that I have is on what basis would you be appointing that person? On the basis of a vacancy or on the basis that the holder of the office can't
carry out functions?
Well explained.
Wow.
Love your glasses, by the way.
Thank you.
Thanks. Oh, not me?
Yeah, I love yours too.
Thanks.
But I love the whole of you. Well, I love the whole of our too.
Oh, crazy. Okay, thank you very much. Chairperson of the Jamaica Bar Association's Constitutional Affairs Committee, Carlene Larmond, KC. We continue to watch this case, as Neb would say, more and on. All right. More and Smile coming up. Thank you very much, madam. We'll be right back.